So a question that comes up a lot and is a very common question you see searched online is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to buy a house in Albuquerque? Is it a good time to buy a house in New Mexico? Is it a good time to buy a house, period? But we have to break it down into two categories. We have, is it a good time to buy a house for a first-time home buyer? Or is it a good time to buy a house for a, existing home? So anyway, so is it a good time to buy a house? The truth is, it depends, right?
Help, I need some guidance. Help, selling and buying. Help, I need some real estate. Help.
Welcome to Albuquerque Real Estate Talk, episode 544. Tracy, we're sneaking up on 450.
Oh,
I know,
very
it's
exciting.
It's just a number. I know, it's just a number.
It was
but
just yesterday we were doing number 400.
Yeah. Well, we've got a bunch of good topics this week. Man, it's interesting because earlier in the week I'm like going, okay, what's going on in real estate that we need to share? And then suddenly it's like just all this stuff came up. It's like, okay, awesome. I think Washington heard our podcast last week because, something came out on that.
At Washington, D.C.
As in Washington, D.C. Okay, I know
I'm sure that all sorts of people in Washington, D.C. listen to our podcast.
Yeah, here in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yes,
of
they
course.
said, we need to change that.
Yeah.
Because the Venturis talked about it.
So we're going to talk about that, which is the capital gains tax on your primary residence, and a lot of talk on that, which is interesting, which is actually good in my opinion. I saw a couple stories. It's that whole thing where like the news stories kind of drive the attitude and how people feel about things. And it was kind of some early signs that buyers are maybe not quite as afraid to step into the real estate market that we've seen in a little bit while. So we'll get into that as well. Tracy, we really want to talk to home buyers this week about, what does it take to buy a home? Like, what is it, is now a good time? I think that's the big question always comes up is now a good time to buy a home? So, and much more. I know you have some surprises for me. You keep looking at me like, I said, do you have any topics? You said, oh yeah, I do. I said, well, what is it? She said, oh, it's a surprise. So anyway, all right. How do people get a hold of us?
Give us a call, 448-8888 here in the 505. It's the best way, or get on our website, welcomehomeabq.com, and you can reach out to us from there.
And if you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe.
Yeah, exactly. So Tigo, let's start with Home of the Week.
Okay.
We get to the end of our podcast a lot of times, and we're like, we forget to talk about and feature some of the properties that we have the honor to represent for sale. So we have one that's going to be on the market very soon. It's in what we call coming soon status right now. So we can start putting it in the multiple listing service. We can wait for photos and let the world know that it's available, but we can't show it yet.
It's like a pre-marketing, pre-showing status.
Exactly.
For a home. Yeah.
So
it's coming soon.
Last week we featured a property in Cedar Crest.
Yep.
Right? And great property. It's going to be open and available to see for the first time this weekend. So if you're waiting for that one on Matterhorn, it will be open on Saturday, I believe.
Yeah, but this one is not the one on Matterhorn.
This is not the one on Matterhorn. This one is 16 Haven Drive in Cedar Crest, 2,183 square feet. It's on 2.2 acres. And when you look at it, you go, wow, it's like in the middle of the beautiful trees. It's very private and secluded. So Matterhorn, Haven, 16 Haven. The list price on that is $559,900, and it's got a small basement area with a little wet bar. Really nice property, big views.
We don't have photos yet, right? So we can't show it. But
we don't have photos yet, but they will be soon. So if you're looking for Cedar Crest, we have two great opportunities.
Well, the great thing about Cedar Crest, and I said this last week, which it's how close it is to the city versus some of the areas in the East Mountains where it's kind of a ways out.
Yeah.
So just depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, great getaways. I don't know if they're really getaways, just out of the city, get that kind of mountain living feel.
And we get people wanting to relocate to our market here in the Albuquerque metro area that are relocating, that say, I want to live in the mountains. They think of us as the wild, wild west, right? And we've got a mountain. And we do have, properties where you can live among the trees and
For sure.
and be close to town. It's just as close as many other outlying areas or closer,
Or closer.
depending on where you need to go.
Yep.
So, Tigo, last week we talked about the capital gains tax exemption when you sell a home. If you have gain on the value of that property, the taxable amount when you sell it, based
Yeah.
on the appreciation.
And what we brought up was a chart that showed that, like in New Mexico, 21% of homeowners, if they sell, they're probably going to pay some taxes. In California, it was like 65%.
Yeah, it
something
was off
like
the
that.
charts.
Yeah.
So,
We're just keeping people from moving, right? That's kind of the whole, in a little bit.
yeah, we definitely had a buyer about a month ago who was coming to us from out of state, and they were concerned about what the expense would be to sell their property there and move here. So it is something people think about. So the capital gains tax exemption is currently $250,000 for individuals or $500,000 for couples. And there is some discussion in Washington, D.C., not Washington State.
Yeah. So what happened? We talked about this last week when we talked about there's a couple bills and proposals out there. Well, what happened this week is that somebody asked the president about it, and he said, "Yeah, we're looking at that." So it kind of brought it up, and then Dr. Hune or Lawrence Hune, who's the chief economist at NAR, National Association of Realtors, this quote here is really interesting. He said, "There's people that maybe want to sell, and then they said, well, their accountants are saying don't sell a home because of the tax," is what Dr. Hune said. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. So we're thinking about the same thing they're thinking about. So it would be good if 21% of New Mexicans would fall in that category of having to pay tax on the profit of selling their home.
Well, the thing that is interesting about this thing, it hasn't, I'm trying to find a quote here. Here it is. Capital gains tax on home hasn't changed in roughly 30 years, but the National Association of Realtors has been pushing for it. They calculate that 15% of current homeowners would be hit with tax if they were to sell in today's market. So that cap of
That
250 and 500, I mean, it's 30
People
years
have
old.
more equity than that.
Yeah.
Right.
Think about what home prices were 30 years ago versus today. Very, very different.
Very different. Just 5 years ago today to
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want me to go to my topic?
Sure.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So last week we talked about the different classifications of homes, whether they were detached, attached, single family,
Condos,
townhomes,
manufactured.
manufactured.
Yeah.
So I just did a little digging and I decided to look at stats on condos and townhomes in our market.
Ah.
So condos,
Wait,
right?
wait. You're doing stats?
Well, it's Statomatic Light. Trust me.
Okay. I'm a little hurt.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't
Yeah.
tell you what I was doing because you'd have found
That's why it was a secret, because I would have
you would have wanted to do more
Yeah.
in depth,
Yeah,
right?
I got it.
So condos, how many condos went through our multiple listing service, right, in the last year? How many do we have? We think of ourselves as a big single family home community, right? The wild, wild west. We're spread out. People have big yards. We're not downtown Detroit. I don't know what downtown Detroit looks like. I just said that.
There's a lot of single family homes, actually. But
Yeah,
yeah.
being from there. So we had 307 condos sell in our multiple listing service in the last year.
That's it?
307 condos
That's out of 10,000.
sold. And that's our whole metro area, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just Albuquerque. 42 are currently in pending sale, and there are 66 on the market right now.
Got it. Okay.
The price range of those condos varies from $76,000 to $850,000.
Mhm.
And interesting, the highest sale in the last year. What do you think the highest sale of a condo in our market was? There was one in Santa Fe that I didn't include.
Yeah. I don't know, $1 million.
Well, you're wrong. Two of them sold for $1,150,000. And interestingly enough, you're going to look this up later, not right now. Both of them were in the 2424 Louisiana complex, right in
Interesting.
Uptown.
Yep.
I think that's that building
Yep.
that was being renovated and redone.
Well, when you said that, my mind went directly to Uptown, and I'm like going, okay, what's an up? Because that to me was that's where the most expensive condos are in our
Yep.
market. Yeah.
Yep. So the average days on market from going on the market to under contract for a condo in our market was 42 days. So just, a month and a half or so of
Yeah,
marketing.
a little bit longer than single family as an average, but still, I
Yeah.
mean, that's, yeah.
Average sales price, very different. Considering we had two of them at $1,150,000, when you looked at the average, it was $241,000. So they're typically a lot more affordable. But then again, the condos also have those homeowners association fees. So you have to factor that into your monthly expense.
Well, and that,
But it's offset
yeah.
by some of the expenses you would have anyway as a homeowner.
Exactly, right.
homeowner.
And that's the thing with condos. People think, oh, I can buy one for 200,000 or 250,000. You got to look at the entire fee, because if it has a $400 a month association fee, that's equivalent to buying a $350,000, single family home, for
Right.
example.
But someone
I'm
else's,
spitballing on the math there, but yeah, it's probably that.
but that HOA fee, if it was $300 or $400, is going to cover a lot of things that a homeowner would normally take care of. You don't have to hire the landscaper. You don't have to hire the person to take care of your roof. Or if you have a evaporative cooler, you don't have to be the one to hire somebody to change it over to refrigerate it or to maintain it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good point. And I think that's the thing about a condo. It's a lock and leave, as they say.
Right. And a lot of times things like sewer, water, sometimes water, sewer, trash are included in that fee.
Roofs sometimes. Well, exterior
yeah.
maintenance is usually, it depends. You gotta look into what the association actually does and doesn't do. But yeah, no, you're right. It's a lot less maintenance for sure.
Townhomes.
Okay.
So I did them separately, just
Yeah.
curious. Right now, there's 108 townhomes actively on the market in our multiple listing service here in the Albuquerque metro area. Price range from $189,000 to $896,000.
So that'd be about 5% of all the homes on the market.
There's 82 in pending sale.
Okay.
They range from 180 to 916,000,
Okay.
and 662 closed. So they ranged from 155,000 to 691, sorry. Average sale price of townhomes was just over 313,000. So where do you think the most expensive townhomes are in Albuquerque?
Oh, it's the neighborhood that Twilight built at, was it Wyoming and Montgomery?
You were just way too smart.
Yeah.
Smarter than the
Well,
average
of course,
bear.
no, I mean, we've toured those, and they're amazing. They're 3 and 4 story with amazing, big views and decks and all kinds.
3-story.
3-story. Yeah. I mean,
Elevator.
I mean, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm not surprised.
So the highest price in there were several of them in the 900s, and they were those Twilight Home new builds at Montgomery in Louisiana.
Was it Louisiana or Montgomery?
Montgomery and Wyoming. Sorry.
Wyoming. Yeah.
Yeah. That redevelopment location. Average days on market for the townhomes was 28. Average sale price was right around 314,000. Average size of the townhomes was just over 1,500 square feet.
Got it.
So then I looked at all of them together and went, how many have an homeowners association above 300 a month? Since you were just throwing out
For townhomes?
for both condos or townhomes.
For both, percentage wise? Oh, what am I doing? Am I doing
No,
count?
just in general. You don't have to guess.
Okay.
There were 53 that came up over 300 a month
Okay.
for all of them.
That are
But-
currently for sale.
And have sold.
Okay.
But what was interesting is when I started looking at, well, let's see what the highest HOA is in our market, right?
Yeah.
Because we know you go to Phoenix, Scottsdale, 800 a month, 1,000 a month is not unusual for a homeowners association
Right.
fee, right? Here, what I found was of those, it was deceiving because some of them were listed as quarterly or annually.
Oh, got it.
So
Yeah.
overall, we have pretty affordable homeowners associations. So that's it. Homeowners, condos, townhomes. What is it like here in the Albuquerque
and
area?
I think the big takeaway from this is that we don't have a lot of what's called high density housing in Albuquerque. Like you said, you always say, we're the Wild West, right? We've got lots of land, we've spread out, right? We've got sprawl. And so we've got a lot of single family homes. So, a good portion of the homes in our market. In fact, I've got a chart we can look at. Let me Sam pull that up. Let's see. So this is number of homes for sale. And right now at the end of June, there were 2,095 single family detached versus 208 single family attached. So
Let's
that's
see.
both condos and townhomes. So, but yeah, I mean, it's about 10%, right, of the market
Right.
are those what we call high density housing, or, again, condos or townhomes.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
Right.
yeah, we don't have a lot of them. So a question that comes up a lot and is a very common question you see searched online is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to buy a house in Albuquerque? Is it a good time to buy a house in New Mexico? Is it a good time to buy a house, period? But we have to break it down into two categories. We have, is it a good time to buy a house for a first-time home buyer? Or is it a good time to buy a house for a, re,
Like a move
re,
up or move down.
I was going to say a repurchase buyer. What would that be called? It'd be called somebody that's moving. Yeah, it's an existing homeowner.
A
So,
not first time home
yeah,
buyer.
yeah, existing homeowner. So anyway, so is it a good time to buy a house? The truth is, it depends, right? It depends on you, because really it depends on your situation. Because what happens is we hear a lot of stuff like, our rates too high, or our price is going to come down, is the market going to crash and I can get a deal? Is it a buyer's market right now, or is it a seller's market?
Did I wait?
Yeah. Should I wait?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, in this context, we're really talking to the first time home buyer. The thing is that there's no one size fits all answer. And so we've been putting together a guide on our website, a checklist, and some other stuff to help people kind of work through these questions. It's like, are you ready to be a home buyer?
And
So
that guide would help understand what's really going on in the Albuquerque and New Mexico housing market, right? And help evaluate your own readiness to buy,
yeah,
right? And that's really important. Walk through each step of the process, from financing to keys in hand to how to evaluate a house and whether it's a good short-term or long-term property for you and your situation. And then this whole guide to help you avoid the common mistakes on being a first-time buyer, especially.
yeah. And I think what happens is people just don't even know what they don't know. They don't know where to start when they're thinking about buying a home.
Right.
They're not sure. So let's just talk about where we are in 2025. Is, the big questions that are coming up right now are, what are mortgage rates going to do, right? And the thing is, mortgage rates have stabilized. Mortgage rates have been in this 6.5, 7 range for a long time now. There was in 24, there was a lot of discussion about, mortgage rates are going to come down. And it's not. We've been in this range, and there's a little bit of movement up and down, but mortgage rates haven't moved much.
And historically, we're in a really good range.
Yeah.
When you look at the last 50 years or so
Yeah.
of where they've been.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is,
Homes
inventory, the number of homes on the market.
homes on the market is not flooding the market, right? We are the highest number of homes for sale in our area, as we've seen in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
But
so
we're still behind, aren't we?
Yeah. So let me bring up the chart here. So we're looking at a monthly indicator, or basically the monthly, we'll call it average of the number of homes on the market in the Albuquerque area. And in, end of June, we're in July right now, 2025, we had 2,095 homes on the market that were detached, and another 208 that were attached. But if you look at this chart, you can see we're way off the lows that we had back in 2022. I mean, ridiculously low number of homes on the market, less than 700 homes overall on the market at one point in 2022. But if we go back to, let's just go back to 2019, because that's the last, we'll call, normal year, and we compare it to June of 2019, there were about 2,800 homes on the market, something like that. So we're still below that normal, period. but we do have a lot more choices right now than buyers have had in a long time.
And we've seen that when we're working with home buyers right now and we're kind of going through their list of what's important to them and helping them figure out areas of where they might want to consider buying. We're finding nice homes for them. We're not having to like really settle, I guess. And I think like in 2022, when you were showing that chart with 800 homes to choose from, we were fighting for anything we could get for those buyers. Right now, most of our buyers are able to find the house that really works for them and able to be the one that we're going to help buy it.
Yeah. So if we look at just one last thing is, people are always concerned about home prices. That, if I'm going to buy a home and then our price is going to drop. Well, first off, again, you have to look at your situation. Can you afford the payment? That's the most important. Does it fit in your budget? Does it work for you? Right. And working with a financial person on your mortgage is going to be important so you can kind of understand the big picture there. How does it compare to renting? What's the long term? So, things like that. But right now, we're in a very moderate home price appreciation. I just brought up the Zillow Home Value Index that has us up about 2% year over year. So basically right in line with inflation. Now, Albuquerque is an outlier to a lot of places around the country. There's certain markets where home prices have declined in the last year or so. We're just kind of chugging along in steady home price appreciation.
One of the other things we're seeing right now, Tigo, is some of the sellers are a little more negotiable than they were in the past few years.
Yeah.
We're seeing some concessions. We're seeing some closing cost credits. We're seeing some price that's accepting maybe a little bit lower price than what a house is offered at. So the buyers can be a little bit more empowered right now than in the past few years. But just want to remember that the really nice homes priced right in the right neighborhood are still pretty competitive, and we're not seeing a lot of concessions on what I would call the gems.
So let's just kind of wrap up this section and talk about, pros and cons of buying a home right now in Albuquerque, New Mexico, summer 2025. And again, there's a lot of headlines, there's a lot of noise out there, there's a lot of experts online telling you, what to think.
The headlines are all like, is the market crashing? Are the rates too high? Is now the time to buy, right? It's all like inflammatory to scare people, sort of.
It's clickbait.
It's clickbait.
It's to generate content online and get people to click their stories so that they go to a website that makes them apply for a mortgage, for example, because they're selling mortgage.
Right.
Just tell them that's how it works, just so people understand that.
Right.
Those stories are not intended to inform. Those stories are intended to get you on that website so that you do something that they can sell to somebody else.
Right. So, pros of buying a home now.
Okay.
More negotiating power.
For sure. More than we've had in 5 years.
Okay. More homes to choose from.
100%. We just talked about that. Yep. We're about 30% more than even last year.
You're going to build equity for yourself instead of paying someone else's paying rent and paying someone else's and giving them equity.
Right.
Right. Equity meaning, we're paying off someone else's mortgage when you're a renter, and when you own, you're paying off your own and building equity through time of what your house is worth.
You build equity in a couple ways. One, every month you're paying interest, obviously, on your mortgage, but you're also paying principal, which means you're reducing the amount you owe. So over time, that's growing. And of course, at the same time, you get market appreciation. Again, it's pretty moderate right now, but we're still getting home price appreciation. And in the long term, there's always going to be price appreciation. I think, go ahead.
So the next point of a pro is less competition, which would equal to less stress, a little bit easier to find the house that you're looking for and be the only one that's trying to buy it.
Yeah.
Maybe. There are a bit few buyers considering the time of year, so that makes it a little less stressful if you're not competing so much.
Yeah.
And then another reason, pro, you can refinance later if your loan, the interest rate goes down they say 1 point you should refinance. Some people say half a point. It just kind of depends on what your home is now worth and what your situation is.
Well, I think this is an important, especially for a first-time home buyer that maybe doesn't realize this. When you purchase a home, you're going to get an interest rate, let's say it's 6.5% right now, and it's a 30-year mortgage, meaning it's amortized over 30 years. Well, let's say a year from now rates are 5.5% or 5% or something like that. You can refinance it, meaning you redo your mortgage. You get a new 30-year if you want. You get a lower payment, and it's possible. Now, there was a term that was been around, and I don't like it, and it was marry the house, date the rate, which I always dislike that. I think it's because nobody knows what interest rates are going to do in the future. I mean, if you look at the time history, rates go up and down all the time. Eventually, they'll go down. The thing about down interest rates, that's usually when the economy's bad,
Right. Right.
which is, it's counter what you would think. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so yes, you can always refinance later.
Right. And when you refinance, you said it really quickly, but usually you're refinancing it again for the next 30 years. It's not going to start at year 4 or however long you've already had your loan. So it actually kind of spreads it out a little
Yeah.
bit more for
Yeah.
you. And if your house value has gone up much or you're able to put more money down, you might, if you had mortgage insurance on your current loan, you might be able to do a loan without mortgage insurance and save that, because mortgage insurance can be a couple hundred a month on your payment.
Yeah. And again, that's all the stuff that you would sit down with your realtor and your mortgage lender to go through all those numbers. You understand that. So what are some of the cons? We're doing pros and cons. So some of the cons are, reasons you may not want to buy right now.
You might not be financially prepared or emotionally ready or want to have that long-term commitment to buy. Those were a lot of things right there that I just said.
Things, yeah.
So financially prepared, do you have the funds if something breaks in your house right after you close on it, right? Are you equipped? We just talked about the different types of homes, but condo versus a single family home. If you want a single family, do you want to take care of the yard? Do you know how to do home maintenance if you need it, or do you have resources to help you, right? And it's a long-term commitment. So if you're moving to Albuquerque or Rio Rancho or somewhere in our area, and your job here is only going to be for a year, it doesn't make sense.
So let me address that, because there's always that question, is it better financially to rent or is it better financially to buy, right? And I would say, and I'm going to say this, if you don't plan on being in your home for more than 2 years, it's probably not good financially, but it could still be good for you from a just lifestyle standpoint. Having your own
Comfort.
place, your comfort, your security, right?
Right.
And not living in somebody else's property.
So Tigo, we've helped over the years. I probably personally have helped 100 people moving to Albuquerque, PCSing to Kirtland Air Force Base, which is PCS, permanent change of station, but
Right.
It's not really permanent.
Yeah.
It's usually about 3 years.
That's where they get stationed.
4 years
Yeah.
for
yeah.
a while and then move on somewhere else. And a lot of those people working on the Air Force Base, Kirtland, will buy a house knowing they're not going to be here more than a couple of years, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. And they have a strategy where they like to keep the house and they buy a house every place they get stationed. So for long term, they kind of have their retirement plan in houses that they have rented out in various areas where they can re-rent them to somebody else, perhaps in the military. And then those houses appreciate in value. So there are reasons where you might be short-term in our market.
So Tracy, we put something together. It's this buyer readiness checklist, and it's not just the financial part of it, because that's usually the question that comes up. Can I financially afford, and do I have the finances in place to purchase a home? But it's a lot of other things too. Are you mentally ready? You have the
Emotional readiness.
emotional intelligence, we'll call it that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So financial readiness, though, is a big piece of it.
Of
So
course.
let's go through the quick few bullet points about being financially ready.
So do you have a good job, stable income, because that's going to be required for a mortgage, right?
Right. How's your credit score? Some of the lenders we work with go down as low as 600, but 620 and above is where you're going to really be much better off.
Have I thought about my down payment and how much will I need? Because there's FHA programs like 3.5% down. A lot of people talk about 20% down. But there's also no down programs in New Mexico with the Mortgage Finance Authority. There's also VA programs that are a no down program if you're a veteran.
And we've seen people walk into home ownership with $500 out of pocket, literally. But of course, you have to have the financial ability to show that you can afford the monthly payment.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. Yep. If you looked into other than the down payment, there's closing costs too. So you need to talk to a realtor, a mortgage lender about that and what those costs might be for you.
Right. And then the last one is really, do you have sort of an emergency fund so that once you become a homeowner, you have a little bit of a financial pillow? What's the word?
Yeah, I like that. I'll go with that, a financial pillow. Well, yeah,
But that's
if
the wrong
a
word,
surprise comes up, I mean, obviously there's home warranties that always recommend, especially for a first-time home buyer on a
Right.
tight budget, is get a home warranty. But, who knows what comes up? Maybe, and it could be that you need to do some landscaping or whatever it is. So,
Right.
yeah, you just want to have some buffer there.
Yeah, exactly. The buffer for emergency expenses versus now I own a house, I need to buy trash cans and floor mats and rugs and, all the things you need to finish out your house.
Yeah,
But you can
good
do those
point.
over time.
Yeah,
So the second big topic is mental and lifestyle readiness.
yeah.
So are you ready? There's questions to help uncover whether, you're really ready to be emotionally and responsible for the commitment of ownership.
Yeah,
Right.
and the first one is, do you plan to be there at least 3 years? I would say that's probably what you need to look at, unless you're doing it for another reason and maybe you're going to buy it and then you're going to keep it and rent it or something like that. But I think if, just understanding that it is a long-term commitment, it's not a 1-year commitment.
Right. Do you feel emotionally prepared to settle down in a community?
Mhm.
Right. Are you comfortable with the responsibilities of maintenance, repair, and home ownership, which, comes with it, right? Have you discussed this decision to move forward with buying with important people in your life, right?
Yeah, no, I think that those are all great questions because, you decide to settle down and then somebody that we've seen this happen where somebody moves to be near a friend, a family member, and then that family member takes off and leaves to go
Or-
somewhere else because they never communicated.
Yeah. Or they never see each other. They moved out of state
Yeah.
to be near a family member and they don't ever even get together. And they're like, why am I living here? I'm moving back to New Mexico where I love it. We've seen that many times. Okay. Another.
Yeah, no, I like this next one is are you okay with the trade-offs and the compromises that you're going to need to make in your home purchase? Because you're never going to get exactly what you want.
Not your whole wish list, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have to kind of give and take. And if you are ready for that, we can sit down and talk through what's really possible in what you might get for your budget and your location.
So the next area is just the timing and your life and where you are in your life. Is it time? And we've talked about that many times that we're saying, oh, is it a good time to buy? Well, I don't know.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, like where are you at in your life? What are your plans? What's your 5-year plan? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? So all
Right.
those things are important, right?
So timing and life planning, one of the big things that comes up, if you're currently in a lease or in a housing situation that, might keep you kind of strapped down, is there a way to time it to coincide with the end of a lease, or is there a way to get out of a lease? And a lot of times people can get out of a lease. It usually costs an extra month of their rent or something to break a lease. But if you find the home of your dreams long term, breaking a lease, a lot of people choose to do that and find it the better path. Sometimes
Another part about the timing is, where are you at on your job and your job stability and where you see yourself in your career, again, 3, 4, 5 years down the road from now.
Right.
And I think, again, that plays into the timing. And I'm sure everybody has that going on in the back of their mind when they're thinking about this, but we're just bringing it to the surface.
Yeah. Another timing and life planning situation is sometimes you already own a home and you want to buy a different home. So do you need to sell to buy? And are
Yeah.
you comfortable with that? Or can you buy without selling and either keep the other house as a rental or move first and then sell?
We did a whole section on that a few weeks ago, didn't we?
Right.
Yeah, talking about, buying and selling at the same time, which is done all the time. It's very possible. It's, there's a couple more things along the way,
Yep.
steps along the way, but it's all very doable. And then I think the last thing is, practical, prepared, do you have a strategy? Do you have a real estate agent that you trust? I think that's a good place you can start.
Yeah, I think even ready buyers need a plan and the right partners. And when you work with a great realtor like us and our team, we help you get other partners who are also great, known, trusted, right, to help with the process. So most people, when they're first time buyers, they're getting input from family, friends, and that's great. But the family and friends might not have the depth of knowledge that your trusted realtor knows or
Well,
has.
and I've always disliked the term, we're salespeople. Well, no, we're really consultants in this complicated process of buying and selling
Yeah.
homes. And something we always say, it's like we can't sell a home. We can give you all the information and help you make informed decisions. That's our job.
I wish I was so good that I could get people to buy a house they didn't want, but
Yeah,
that
yeah.
doesn't happen. And
No,
I
no.
really don't wish that I could do that because we really want the process to be as smooth and successful. And we want people to say, my realtor's great and you need to use them too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, other practical preparation and strategy tips?
Well, I think part of it is the main thing I would say, and there's a lot of details in the purchase, and there's one thing for sure that's going to happen is something's going to go wrong in the
Right.
process. Something's going to go wrong that we didn't expect or you didn't expect, and basically just mentally prepared for that.
It's sort of an emotional roller coaster,
it
the
can be
whole
for sure.
buying or selling a
Yeah,
home, right?
yeah,
And just realizing that everything's figure outable.
yep,
We get through things,
yep.
we solve problems, and we help make it as smooth as possible.
Yeah. And that sounds like, oh my gosh, it's an awful thing. But no, I mean, that's why you need somebody, you need this team of people around you that have dealt with this before. Your realtor, your mortgage lender, if you've got a loan, inspectors,
Well, and then
and
the
it goes
whole
on and on, right?
right,
Yeah.
it's the whole people that as realtors that we can bring to the table
Right.
to help because most buyers go, I don't know home inspector, I don't know termite inspector, I don't know a handyman, I don't know. And we go, here's some people that our other clients have found that they felt were worthy, then they were happy with. So we bring a lot to the table.
Last thing, Tracy, is I am redrafting the step-by-step guide to buying a home in New Mexico. And I'm going to again, I'll put that in the show notes and I'll link to that just so people can get it. If they're new to it, what is the process? What does it look like? What are just some of the things they can start thinking about? So we'll put that in the show notes.
Great. Here we are. It's going to be August next Friday, Tigo. Can you believe like summer's ending soon?
No, it's still summer. It's still summer.
No, people are already talking about kids going back to school. I think this weekend, is it this weekend? Is the tax-free weekend? Or was it last weekend?
It's this weekend. Sam's saying it's this weekend.
Tax-free, like computers, back to school things up to $100, I think. So if you need back to school, this weekend's a good weekend to do it. Map it out, get it all in your cart at Target or whatever, Walmart, go pick it up, pre-plan it, get it, hit your order at midnight or whatever, 12:01 a.m. so that you get the things because some stuff's going to sell out.
Yeah.
And, we're all the queen and kings of buying it and picking it up. At least I
Exactly.
am.
Yeah. I've got one more topic I want to hit on, and this I think is key for home buyers. And I've just seen, and Sam, go ahead and bring up my screen here. So I saw this story, this headline the other day, and I saw two things this week that got me thinking about it. It says, this was on Investopedia, and it said, housing inventory is surging. Does that mean it's finally a buyer's market? I thought, interesting. That's a different narrative than we've seen in the media. So they're starting to talk about, okay, is it a good time to buy? And then the other thing I saw, there was a there's a survey that, is it Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae? It's Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae does their national housing survey and, asking people, is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell?
It's a sentiment. How do you feel about it?
How do you feel about it, right? Because how people feel about the economy, how people feel about anything is what drives action, right? So if they're feeling better about the market. So anyway, my point is there's some early signs that buyers are feeling better about buying time. The is it a good time to buy has been like at an all-time low since the beginning of this year and into last year. It was really low. However, it's the number's not great. It's only about 28% of the people surveyed said that it's a good time to buy, but that's the highest we've seen since February of 2022. So there does seem to be a little bit of an early indication of a shift in sentiment about home buying.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was good to bring it up, and we'll see where that goes. And but what we have been seeing a lot of is that obviously people are still buying and selling, but it's more life activities, or what's the right word here? The things that are happening in their life that are kind of forcing them to be there, where I think more and more people start thinking about, okay, well, it's just time and it's not optional any longer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Good. Well, here we are, wrapped up another pod.
Yeah. You
On
got any
our way.
questions about real estate in the Albuquerque area or New Mexico? We're the Venturi Group of Real Broker. We're at 505-448-8888. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for watching the video all the way to the end. We appreciate you. And please click subscribe. We'll keep you updated on what's going on with real estate in the Albuquerque area and New Mexico, and of course, across the entire country. Have a great one.